This is lecture 38 on urban transportation planning. We will continue our discussion on urban structure in this class. You may recall we discussed basically about the urban activity hierarchy and urban highway hierarchy in the previous class. There are hierarchies fixed starting from community center, district center, regional center, etc. in respect of urban activities and in respect of urban transportation system with specific reference to road network. We know now that we have classified the roads into 4 categories starting from expressways or freeways, arterials, collector streets and local streets, right. And with this background information we are going to study and understand the 3 different types of urban structure that I just showed you in the previous class. The 3 types of urban structure are: number 1, centripetal structure, grid structure and then linear structure. We will first discuss about centripetal type of urban structure, centripetal type urban structure, right. Of course, we can study the structural features with the aid of sketch. This is the centripetal type of urban structure, and legend shows you the details of various activity centers including the households. You can see households are shown as a cluster around a community center. This is just to illustrate the concept that households immediately focus on community center for their day to day activity needs, right. That is how this has to be understood. Then you can see several community centers, one here, another here. These community centers, and there could be several more around the other parts, these are focusing on this circle which is nothing but district center. So, several community centers are focusing on district center. This implies that all the households around the community centers are indirectly focused towards district center through the community centers, isn't it? That is the implication. Then these are district centers. Several district centers focus on the regional center. So, there is a strict hierarchy maintained, clear. And to have an idea about the location of non-household serving employment, the location of these facilities are indicated here. They are outside the hierarchy of connection between the activity centers, they are independent of this hierarchy, so that there is direct access from household to these non-household serving employment centers, clear. Let us list the same information in a systematic way. Here households focus first on community centers, a number of community centers focus on a district center and the district centers then focus on regional centers. So, that is to be understood very clearly as far as this particular structure is concerned. Then the non-household serving employment or basic employment are located peripherally with facility for direct access from households. And how do we fit the transport system hierarchy with the community or the activity centers hierarchy is a question. Unless we fit both these hierarchies, we will not be able to understand the benefit or disbenefit of a particular structure. So, we must see how these 2 hierarchies fit with one another. This is the fitness of transport system hierarchy with the activity center hierarchy. You can see the 4 categories of roads indicated with their respective numbers, right. And of course, the legends can be seen here. Number 1 is nothing but expressway, number 2 arterial, number 3 collector streets, number 4 local streets, and the dotted line indicates trip path from household to various service centers. And you can see households are located along class 4 roads, which are local streets, and the community centers are located at the intersection of class 2 and class 3 roads, namely collector streets and arterials. District centers are located at the intersection of arterials and expressways, and regional centers are located at the intersection of the high speed facility, namely the expressways, because people should be able to reach from far off places to this particular location. And trip path from household to these centers are shown by the dotted line. You can see that a strict hierarchy of movement is followed. One should first come to the community center and then go to district center, then only they can reach out to the regional center. Clear? Let us just understand the same points in a systematic way. The community centers are located at the intersection of class 3 and class 2 routes, right. District centers at the intersection of class 2 and class 1 routes, and the regional centers at the intersection of 2 class 1 routes. Clear? The trips from a household to service centers of various levels follow a particular pattern. The pattern is very clear, as we saw. This type of urban structure tends to route trips to the higher order centers through or nearby the lower order centers. Strict hierarchy is maintained. Clear? Then the next type of urban structure, namely a grid type of urban structure. As the name implies, the grid formed by the links of the primary transport network. Links of the primary transport network provides a basic framework for the grid. You can understand the primary transport network as the links of type 1 category roads in our hierarchy, namely expressways. Clear? And of course, community and district centers are located within the cells of the grid. Once you make a grid, you will have a number of cells, and within each cell you are locating 2 centers of the hierarchical level, namely community centers as well as district centers. Both are inside each of the cells. Let us see how exactly these centers are located in the cells. This is how they are located. First, note that this is a grid. This is the grid, and I have shown you just only one grid, right. There could be several grids in an urban area. Just for understanding, we have taken up only one grid. This is the primary road network links of a primary road network or class 1 road. Clear? And the whole thing is a cell, and within that there are subdivisions, and you can see the district center is located at the center of the cell, and the community centers are located at the center of the subcells. Once you divide the cell into smaller parts, you fix the community centers at the centroid of these smaller parts. And the non-household serving employment, as we have seen in the previous case, are located as close to the main arterial or expressway route as possible, but without any connection to the hierarchy of the service centers. Clear? Of course, the legends are same as we have seen earlier, nothing different from the same legends are used here. And let us summarize the same points in a systematic way. What is happening here is this: households focus on community centers and the community centers focus on district centers, is not it? This concept differs from the centripetal structure, the previous structure, in that the households focus independently on regional centers. One need not have to go through the hierarchy strictly throughout the stretch. There is a bifurcation at some stage facilitating direct reach to regional centers without passing through the district center. That is the difference between the previous one and this type of structure. Of course, we can look at the figure which shows the fitness of the road system hierarchy with the activity centers hierarchy. This is how the system works. Of course, legends are the same as we have seen earlier: number 1 expressway, number 2 arterial, number 3 collector streets, number 4 local streets, and dotted line indicates the trip path from household to various service centers. Where are the households located? As usual, they are located along class 4 category roads, class 4 roads, right. And you can see the community centers are located at the intersection of 2 class 3 roads, same class of roads, whereas in the previous case we had 2 different classes intersecting and the centers are located at those intersections, whereas here the same class of roads are intersecting and we are providing the centers at the point of intersection. And the district centers are located at the intersection of class 2 roads here, and regional centers are located at the intersection of 2 class 1 roads. If you look at the trip path from household to various centers, the trip path first goes to community center and then to district center, because one has to go through the community center to reach out the other hierarchical levels. After crossing the community center, there is a possibility of bifurcation. One need not have to go through the district center to reach out to regional center, there is a direct route. Okay. That way this will be little better than the previous case, right. This is the summary. Community centers are located at the intersection of 2 class 3 routes, right. District centers at the intersection of class 2 routes, and the regional centers at the intersection of class 1 routes. Clear? The trip paths to the district and regional centers tend to be routed through nearby community center, obviously, whereas trips to district and regional centers bifurcate after they have passed through the community centers. Clear? So, this is the basic structural features of grid type of urban structure. Then the third category of urban structure, namely linear type urban structure. In this type, of course, as shown in figure, the service centers of all hierarchical levels are located along the same corridor, because we are given a linear strip of land. That is why we are proposing this kind of urban structure. We cannot just have these service centers of hierarchies spread out, they have to be located along the same corridor. households are located at right angles to the corridor, little away on both sides, with non-household serving employment located peripherally with direct access from household. Let us look at the figure and try to understand the concept better. So, this is the linear type of urban structure. You can see all these activity centers of different hierarchical levels are fixed on the same traffic corridor. Clear? Here you have the regional center and you have community centers, district center, again community centers, and here you have community centers, district center, community centers. Households are located here and non-household serving employment centers are located separately with direct access from households. Please understand, these are not exact layouts of urban structure, these are schematic diagrams, okay, illustrating the principle involved in location of activity centers and how do we access these activity centers through roads of different hierarchical levels, right. And the legends are same as we have seen in the previous cases, and let us see the connection or connectivity between the hierarchy of road system and these centers, that is shown in figure B. This is the connectivity. The dotted line indicates the trip path, right, and one has to take this route from households to come to a community center, then reach out to a district center, then from district center to a regional center. And please note, routes 1 and 2 or category 1 and 2 roads are shown on the same line, and 3 is shown here, and 4 obviously is not distinctly shown, because wherever there is space you will have the 4th category, otherwise households will be located here due to space constraint with direct access to category 3 roads, namely collector streets. There will be some narrow lanes and by lanes connecting the adjoining households, which will lead the traffic to the collector streets. There may not be an exclusive system of category 4 roads in such cases. Clear? Now, how do we provide type 1 and type 2 roads along the same corridor? Because this is going to be a major traffic corridor, everybody will be moving only along this particular narrow stretch. How do we manage the traffic situation under this case? Any suggestion? Providing type 1 and type 2 roads along the same corridor means you are going to provide a high speed facility as well as arterial type of road side by side on the same corridor. Is it possible? It should be made possible, right. If the space is very narrow, just provide an elevated facility for as an expressway above the ground, and at the ground level you can have the arterial same corridor and grade separate the two facilities, that is one way. If there is some space available, then you can have the expressway at the middle and two arterials can be had on both sides of the expressway, right. All these things are going to be laid side by side, and if you are planning for a rail system, have that system also either at the ground or above ground or underground, again on the same corridor, right. So, that is how we can achieve provision of this kind of facilities on the same alignment. It is a question of proper planning of the system, clear. And it is assumed in these cases mostly people reach out to type 3 routes even by walk or bicycle, not using motorized vehicles most of the cases. And this is one type of structure where there is a clear advantage of providing public transit system, because it is easily accessible and access to the corridor is not a problem. You can operate very efficient public transit systems in this type of urban structure. That is advantage. Disadvantage is you will not be able to spread out and locate these centers of hierarchical levels in a very convenient place. You have to put them along the traffic corridor. It is possible. If you take Singapore, they have provided all these activity centers oriented towards the main MRTS, mass rapid transit system. At every third or fourth station, the station building itself, you will have a big shopping mall equivalent to a district center that we are talking about, right. You can access any kind of service in those station areas, and every station will have a small shopping mall equivalent to your community center. So, the transit stations and activity centers are integrated. Clear? There is no need to travel separately to access these services. These services are brought to a transport corridor and they are available at the railway stations. That is what you want, and probably you may have to divert from the transit route 1D to reach out to the regional center, which might be located in one or two central places, right. So, that is the advantage of providing a good mass transit system and integrating these centers along with the network of such systems. So, to summarize what we have discussed, households focus on community centers here also, and the linear corridor allows community centers to focus on district centers and on the regional centers on the same corridor. Figure B, which we have already seen, illustrates the relationship between the two hierarchies, and this figure shows that for this concept there is not much specialization in the transport links, right. 1 and 2 are together and 3 alone is shown and 4 is not shown, okay. That is what is meant by this particular statement. Another type of urban structure, namely directional grid urban structure, was also tried. Before we discuss about directional grid urban structure, let us try to find the answer for the questions that we posed to ourselves in the previous class. I asked you one question: why not have a standard format of urban structure, adopt the same pattern everywhere? Why should we have these types of urban structures, different types? Do we have the answer now? How is the growth of urban areas controlled? The most important controlling factor is the topography, right. So, the shape of urban areas are very much governed by the topography of that location, right. And another important factor is the growth of activities in an urban area is very much related to the major economic activities of that area, particularly the basic industries. If there is a coastal town with all its economic activities related to fishing and waterway transportation, then that will be the focal point of most of the socio-economic activities, and when the city grows, the city will grow keeping that as the centroid. If there is another urban area where mining is a major source of economic activity, you can see the mind controls the developmental pattern of such cities. I hope you would have heard about these things. And if there is purely a kind of city with lot of religious shrines only, then the location of these shrines will govern the spread of the city, the growth of the city itself, right. So, historic, socio-economic and topographic features will fix the shape of development of urban areas. So, we cannot standardize a shape and impose on every location, it is not possible. We must understand and appreciate the history of development, topography of an area, and then adopt any one of these basic urban structures. If you have an urban area at the foot of a hill range along a sea coast, then the space available for development is the area between the waterline of the sea coast and the foot of the hill. It is a narrow strip. There are areas like that, maybe some areas in Kerala and so on, and you have to adopt a linear structure. Or in certain cases the urban area might have developed along the bank of a river, then again we end up with a linear structure. And if the whole of the activities are centered towards one major socio-economic center, then we will end up with centripetal type of urban structure, because everything is focused on one area. And if there is freedom to spread out as we like, then maybe we can think of a grid structure. We can go on adding grids around the whole space and develop a nice grid to cover the urban area as it grows. Clear? So, that is why we cannot have a single formula to fix a structure for urban areas. We need to have different concepts and apply the concepts based on the field conditions. Clear? And this directional grid urban structure, as indicated here, has been developed in connection with South Hampshire study in England in the year 1966. At the planning stage itself, they thought of introducing this new concept. It is not totally new, it is a synthesis of the ideas that has been discussed already in the three previous structures. This structure is called the directional grid urban structure and represents a synthesis of some of the principles contained within the three concepts discussed earlier. This concept has picked the most important points of all the three, put them together and developed a new concept. The basis of this concept is a more specialized transport route hierarchy. What do you understand by more specialized transport route hierarchy? They have just accepted the service center hierarchy as available in the previous structures. They have made changes only in transport route hierarchy. We have basically had 4 categories of roads in all the previous cases, all the 3 cases, type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4 roads. And each of these roads had a specific objective. Type 1 means emphasis only on speed and no emphasis on land access. Type 4 means full emphasis only on integration of road with land and no emphasis on speed. These people wondered, why not create roads in each category with emphasis both on speed as well as land access. They thought of type 1 category roads. Within type 1, 2 types, one with emphasis on speed goes with high volume, the other one with the emphasis on land access again with high volume. So, they ended up with 8 different types of roads. Type 1 through route, type 1 access route. Type 1 through means emphasis to speed, type 1 access route means emphasis on land access. That is what they tried with the three concepts discussed previously. 4 classes of transport routes were used, as we know. Class 1 and class 2 emphasized movement efficiency and were access control, just to recapitulate what we did earlier, and class 3 and class 4 emphasized land access, as we understand clearly. With the directional grid concept, the same 4 transport route classes are used without change, but the movement efficiency land access dichotomy, which are opposing in nature, conflicting objectives dichotomy, is maintained through all the 4 classes, producing 8 basic route classifications. 8 basic route classifications. Clear? This is the structure, and please study the structure carefully. Look for type 1 category of roads. We have shown one continuous line on top with number 1. This is type 1 category of road. There is another type 1 category shown with dotted line 1, right. So, this is type 1 through route with emphasis on speed. If one want to go faster, take this route. Of course, the traffic volume will be heavy both here as well as here, whereas in this route you cannot move faster, but you can access all the roadside land uses. 2 categories in type 1 itself. Look at type 2 category of roads. You have a dotted line. This is type 2 access route. This is type 2 through route, type 2 access route, type 2 through route. What do we do here? We are placing a route which are in the next level in the hierarchy at right angles to the adjoining road in the hierarchy, right. So, type 2 routes are at right angles to type 1 routes, that is one point, and then through and access routes are placed alternately. If you provide one access route, the next route on the same type will be through route, then access route and then through route, so that speed as well as accessibility is available alternately. Clear? And look at type 3 routes. This is type 3 access route. Here we have type 3 through route. This is parallel to type 1, but at right angles to type 2, right. Again we provide access and through routes one after another. Interestingly, you can find that type 4 also has 2 categories. They have carried the emphasis on speed even to type 4 category of roads, which are really basically intended for integration of land with road. They wanted to have even type 4 through routes, emphasis on speed only, and as well as type 4 roads with emphasis on access, land access. And again you can see the category alternately through and access routes side by side in all the types. And type 4 is perpendicular to the next type, it is perpendicular to type 3, is not it. Type 4 is in this direction, type 3 is in this direction, and of course parallel to type 2. Clear? Now you can see all these activity centers are provided at the intersection of access roads of different categories, not through routes. And the community centers, as you could see here, are located at the intersection of type 4 and type 3 routes, both are access types. Emphasis on land access. Similarly, here you can see the community centers. District centers are located at the intersection of type 2 and type 3 categories of routes, both are again access type. Even non-household serving employments of different sizes, smaller size non-household serving employment centers are located at the intersection of type 4 and type 3 access routes here, and larger size non-household serving employment centers are located at the intersection of type 3 and type 2 access routes again, and still larger size non-household serving employment centers are located adjacent to type 1 access route, right. So, always they are adjoining to access routes. Look at the location of the regional center at the intersection of type 1 and type 2 access routes, right. So, that means you can be very strict about accessibility. If it is a through route, whether it is 1, 2 or 3 or 4, it will be functioning only as through route without any land access, and if it is an access route, there will be free access to roadside land uses irrespective of the category. That is the idea of this proposal, clear. And of course, you must realize the complexity of this system. It is not that easy to introduce this system everywhere. Hampshire is almost another satellite town of London, newly developed area. So, since there was flexibility in trying out new concept, they tried this concept in that particular city. To summarize, we have to say in this case the routes of one classification are at right angles to those of the classification above or below it. That is what we have seen, right. Then as we have seen in the figure, urban activities of various scales are related directly to routes of various classifications. There is no hierarchy to access different activity centers. You can independently access each of the activity centers from household. Community centers and smaller non-household serving employment, namely basic employment concentrations, are located with direct access to route classes 3 and 4, right. On the other hand, major manufacturing plants and the regional centers are provided with direct access from class 1 and class 2 routes. That is what we have seen. At the intersection of class 1 and class 2 access routes, we have located the regional center, and by the side of the class 1 access route, we located major employment centers, right. And let us see the connectivity between the activity center hierarchy and transport route hierarchy. Travel to community centers is provided by a class 4 access route. Maybe we will look at figure B, then we will get a better understanding of the path from household to various activity centers. Households are located by the side of class 4 access route here. People travel to the adjoining community center taking class 4 access route, where speed may not be that high. Since community center is nearby area, they can afford to go slow and reach out to this place, and district centers may be little far off. So, they just move through the lanes and by lanes in between these roads and reach the class 4 through route, because they have to move over longer distance. So, they have the possibility of taking this through route for some distance and then reach class 3 access route to reach the district center. See, the paths are totally independent of one another. There is no hierarchy maintained in the pathway. Household to community center separate and household to district center another independent path. Look at the path from household to the regional center. They take class 4 through route and then still there is a possibility of moving faster by taking class 3 through route, and then when they come closer to the regional center they get into class 2 access route and reach the regional center. The principle here is shorter the distance, slower is the movement. Relatively longer is the distance, there is a possibility of moving faster to reach the center which is away from the household. That is the advantage claimed by the planners while recommending this kind of system. Is that clear? So, to summarize again the features in respect of mobility, travel to district center is provided by a class 4 through route and then a class 3 access route, and travel to the regional center is accomplished along a class 4 through route, then a class 3 through route again, and then a class 2 access route. So, when there is a possibility of taking through routes until they go closer to the activity center, you can move faster when the distance increases. That is the advantage claimed of this particular concept. So, these are the 4 different concepts tried out, and of course, this particular concept was not used elsewhere in any part of the world except in Hampshire, because of the complexity involved. Within each category you need to have a through route as well as access route. It was not possible to try out this kind of system anywhere else in the world, and you can assume this is the unique facility available only there, and all other urban areas all over the world, if you look at carefully the system, it might follow any one of these 3 basic structures, either centripetal or grid or linear structure. Clear? Now, let us try to summarize the whole concept and try to understand the important features of each type of structure and the related issues. That is very important. What are the issues related to each of the structures? Unless you are clear about the issues related to the structures, you will not be able to decide about the type of structures suited for a particular location. Okay. What are the merits and demerits of each of these 3 basic structures, leaving apart the 4th one, which is quite complex, right? Let us look at each of these 3 basic types one by one. First, we discussed about centripetal type of urban structure. So, with centripetal structure, as you may recollect, households focus on community centers, is not it? Community centers focus on district centers, and the district centers focus on regional centers. Strict hierarchy is followed. This successive focusing of the trips is satisfactory if most of the travel takes place by public transport. That is our interest. As transport system planner, how are we going to recommend the structure for a given urban area? Why this statement has been made? They say centripetal type of urban structure is suitable if you can operate a good public transport system. Why? What is the reason? What will happen if the share by private transport mode is significant, say 80% of people move using their own personal vehicles, only 20% take public transport. What will happen? Any response? See, when we maintain the strict hierarchy, those who are interested to go direct to the regional center may have to unnecessarily pass through the community center, district center, and then reach the regional center. They may have no business at these two centers. The traffic is practically through traffic, but passing through these two activity centers where there will be congestion always, there will be lot of traffic around these two centers, right. If more people are using only personal vehicles, then you will find lot of traffic jam around the community center as well as district center, and you cannot reach out to the regional center that easily, right. There will be a real traffic congestion problem around these activity centers, and if you have a good transit system, then this concept is very good. If most of the travel is by private car, then the concentration of traffic will lead to congestion. Concentration of traffic around the other centers will lead to unwarranted congestion. So, to visualize the congestion level, you can look at the figure again. When people move to regional centers through community center, district center, you can see, you can imagine the kind of traffic problems. See, traffic from several community centers will converge at a district center. So, there will be chaotic situation here, and then they have to get diverted to the regional center. And another related point to be understood is the centripetal structure is also rigid in the sense that household support areas required by various types of activity concentrations are tightly defined. You can see the households focusing on a community center. We are going to have several community centers focusing on a district center. Once you fix these centers and make the households focus on community centers and then in turn to district centers, it is almost rigidly fixed, tightly fitted, and expansion is not possible. Even minor modifications will be difficult, right. The household areas are already defined and fixed. You cannot make any modifications or provide for expansion, tightly defined. Changes in activity pattern cannot be easily accommodated by the centripetal type of urban structure, right. So, that is the problem in practice about accommodating possible changes in the activity pattern of the urban dwellers. With the grid type of structure, as you may recall, households focus on community centers and the community centers then focus on district centers. Then on there is a bifurcation. Trips to regional center are more easily accomplished or accommodated by the grid structure, in that these trips are removed directly from the interior of the grid to the primary transport network. That is advantage. You can imagine, think of the figure that we have seen. I will show you the figure again. The grid structure also suffers from a rigid structuring of the household support areas for the community and district centers. You look at the figure, right. Of course, one advantage here is reaching out to the regional centers is easy. You can directly access the type 1 route from any point and then take this faster route to come to the regional center, that is the advantage. But since you are fitting these activity centers and the households within each of the cells, your area is rigidly fixed, right. Again modifications, changes etc. will be extremely difficult. In the case of linear structure, service centers of all hierarchical levels, as we have seen, are located along the primary transport corridor. The intention of most applications of the linear concept has been that access between households and the primary transport network system would be on foot, because it is linear, right. It is assumed that people can just walk and reach out to the main corridor. That was the understanding. Just have a look at the structure again. So it is a very short distance, it is not spreading out far away from the main corridor. People can even walk to the main traffic corridor and reach out to all these activity centers. Clear? This is the related issue. To provide adequate access to residential areas, the station spacing must be relatively small and the primary transport corridor must be long in larger cities. Why station spacing has to be small? You must have stations, it could be if rail system or bus system. Station here means either bus stops or railway stations. On the corridor you must have stations at frequent intervals, so that people can access the main traffic corridor by foot easily, right. That is the idea, because that is the only main mode of transportation available. So you must have the intake points at frequent intervals. Unless different route classes are provided within the linear corridor, the speed of movement along the corridor will be poor. That is what I told you earlier. Within the corridor, for those who want to move faster, you provide a faster route, and for those who want to access land at frequent intervals, provide another facility, right. Type 1 and type 2 side by side, or a train system and faster bus system side by side, and so on. Of course, the fourth type of urban structure, called the directional grid, has been proposed, which represents the synthesis of some of the features of the grid and linear structures, as we have seen earlier. And the central feature of this concept is a greater specialization of the transport route structure for both movement efficiency and land access, as we have seen. And this is the structure, which is relatively complicated, and therefore route types of various scales are arranged systematically, right angles to the succeeding or preceding ones, with routes of one classification being at right angles to those classifications above or below it. Urban activities of various hierarchical scales are located adjacent to transport routes with a complementary hierarchical level, and this concept has not been applied widely to the development of urban structure plans. To put the fact, this was applied only to that city and no other city has adopted this concept. Clear? So this is the summary, and to again summarize at the macro level of what we have seen today, we basically discussed about three types of urban structure: centripetal type, grid type, and linear type of urban structure. Now we are clear that all these three types of urban structure have their own merits and demerits, and there are certain issues related to each of these structures. Clear understanding of the merits and demerits and related issues are very important for transport system planners to identify a particular type of urban structure and then plan the transport system to suit that particular type. The fourth type of urban structure that we discussed is a special type, but much complicated, that is why it was not adopted elsewhere in any part of the world. So, this completes our discussion on urban structure. The next class we will discuss about urban goods movement. So, this is the end of lecture 38.